So why does AI say something wrong and that too so confidently? The reason for doing this video is I was, using ChatGPT to format my resume, and I was just, checking point by point, and I suddenly realized that it had made up something that didn't exist in my resume. And while I always do check the output from ChatGPT or any other LLM models that you use, and I also recommend that you do check everything thoroughly, I just realized that it was nestled in so smoothly that if I hadn't been reading word to word, I would have just totally gone along with the output that ChatGPT had given. It's not a new term. Of course, it's called hallucination. It sounds real, looks real, but it is made up. And the reason, why I'm getting slightly deeper into it is not to just talk about what is hallucination, but why does it happen, and why does it sound so confident, even after making up stuff. And one of the latest, most beautiful example of hallucination recently happened with Deloitte and the Australian government, by the way. Deloitte submitted a report to the Australian government which had a fabricated quote from a federal court judgment, and it had references to non existent academic research papers. And Deloitte accepted its mistake, and it had to partially refund the Australian government. If you're looking to read more about this incident, I will be adding the source to this news piece in the comments as usual. So, why does a large language model hallucinate or make up stuff? So, as you know, AI doesn't have a built in concept of truth or fallacy, right? It's focused on predicting the next most probable word. Now, going back to the roots, right? LLMs like GPT are trained on massive amounts of text. So they learn patterns of language, not verified truth. So when you ask a question, it predicts the next word one by one and then forms sentences that sound fluent. And if the topic that you're asking it about isn't in its data, it will try to again answer by predicting the next word. So it's this prediction that is inaccurate sometimes. And a beautiful and a simple analogy to understand this is a student writing an essay on a topic in spite of not knowing enough about that topic. It just reminds me of my school days when I had to fill up answer sheets, and with whatever came to mind, right? It's exactly what an LLM does as well, by the way. It's like filling up the answer sheet even though you don't know much about it, but because it has been trained maybe for sounding right versus accuracy, which is why it will fill up answer sheets. So that was on why hallucinations happen, right? Which is that it is trained to predict the next word, and even though it doesn't have information sometimes, or it's not trained on that data, it will still try to predict, and that can lead to inaccurate information. So that is why hallucinations happen. And the next obvious question is, how do you reduce hallucinations? To reduce the hallucinations, as you know, RAG came into being, right, which is a retrieval augmented generation. So the model will look up verified info from trusted sources, which is a retrieval. Then it is added to the prompt as context, and then it is generating a final answer. So RAG obviously is an excellent way to reduce hallucinations. All the popular large language models very soon realized this issue, and they did the web search integration. So, which is just fetch the real time info from the web instead of relying on the old trained data. Obviously, context also helps to reduce hallucination. So, this is where the advancement started happening on remembering the context, the memory, which will help reduce the hallucinations. And as always, the best fail safe method that you have right now is to have a human in the loop review. I still review all the outputs that I get from ChatGPT. Even when I use ChatGPT's deep research feature, for example, I do click on the sources it cites in the report and I go through one by one, because it is important, and you simply cannot just accept the output as is. And this is where the human in the loop review is very important. And so now the next obvious question is, can you eliminate hallucinations? So we've looked at why hallucinations happen, how to reduce hallucinations, but the ultimate question is, can you eliminate hallucinations? And the obvious answer right now, as we speak, is no. But we can reduce and manage them. And OpenAI has published a report on why language models hallucinate, wherein there were some common beliefs, as listed here, which they have tried to answer based on the research in their paper. And they do say that accuracy will never reach 100%, and some questions are always or and will be unanswerable. They also believe that you cannot eliminate hallucinations, yet you can still set some guardrails or some limits so that the models can know their limits while replying to the question. As usual, the link to this paper will also be in the comments. So, right now, to conclude, we can say that basically LLMs, they predict but they don't know, right? It fills blanks and not facts. It's rewarded right now for sounding right, not being right. So we can reduce it but not eliminate it yet. And as mentioned before, humans in the loop are still critical. If you've learned something from this video, then do consider subscribing to my channel. I do break down complex AI topics into easy to understand concepts for people to easily grasp and learn about AI. Thank you.